With all the hype surrounding Black Ops 4 this year, people really enjoying it over the previous entries the past few years, I decided to go out and pick me up a copy of Call of Duty Ghosts. People still play this game? Apparently they do, and today we're going to be looking into who's actually playing what and what you can expect if you wanted to pick this game up today.
God damn it.
Call of Duty Ghosts. This is an interesting and controversial game for a few reasons. This was, for a lack of better words, supposed to be the first quote-unquote next-gen release for Call of Duty on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Also came out on the Wii U, which I didn't actually realize, but you could pretty much get this for any platform that was out at the time. I personally had it on PS3, but the most notable thing about it was that they kept trying to push this as a next-gen title. They constantly kept boasting about these super advanced new technologies that they were bringing into the game, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So I picked up a copy of Call of Duty Ghosts from my local game store. For some reason they had it in Spanish. Popped it in, quickly set up my new character, which was just kind of a convoluted way of saying I'm going to unlock certain items early depending on which one I picked. Set up my class, and then I just jumped into a few games. Throughout the week I had about 3 or 4 sessions, and before jumping into the games I decided to look at the game modes and player count. At any given time throughout the week there was around 700 to 900 players in this game, so it never really peaked over 1,000, and the only playable game modes that had enough players to actually start a game up in were Team Deathmatch, Strike Zone 24/7, Gun Game, Search and Destroy, Free-for-All, and Hardcore Team Deathmatch. Which is a shame because I actually really remember liking the Search and Rescue mode, which was basically like Kill Confirmed mixed with Search and Destroy, where if you died you could be revived by a teammate if they grabbed your tags. Thought it was a really cool concept that was unique to this game, but there were no people playing it, so there's that. One thing I noticed throughout all of my games that I played was there was never a completely full lobby for any given amount of time. Every single game I played had a few people missing every single time. So here we are jumping into my first game. Okay, we're doing all right, and we're off to a great start here. Okay, I'm sitting here having a good time, and migration. Alright, so I've been playing for over an hour, and every single time I think of Call of Duty Ghosts, for some reason I think of Stonehaven. It's such a really unique and cool looking map. I'm so excited. Finally, we're getting to play. Okay, to be fair, throughout my entire time playing this, there wasn't too much connection issues that I dealt with, other than the first couple of games, really. But generally, it ran okay, other than there always being somebody missing from the games. If I were you, I really wouldn't be talking shit to the 25 people in my playlist. People are actually complaining about hardscoping in a 5-year-old Call of Duty game with 800 players in it. That really shouldn't surprise me. But throughout playing, my connection wasn't too bad, and if I had to be honest, throughout the handful of game modes you have here, I would say the most social are probably Search and Destroy and Gun Game. I think I had the most fun in this playing Gun Game.
Oh shit, that was a nice. Come on, down me. Get ahead. Why do people stab it?
Gun Game is one of those things that's just hard to mess up. It's cheap fun that you're gonna have regardless of what Call of Duty you're playing, and I found that it just really worked well. It was a pretty good time, to be honest. I gotta be honest, I was kind of shocked by how social this game was. Not social in the point that people were actually conversing in this game. Nobody actually does that in a Call of Duty title.
I'm telling you, man, it's because he's that guerrilla warfare, that concrete jungle guerrilla warfare, man, that goddamn affirmative action got them out in that goddamn winning.
But the amount of people just blaring random shit from their mics.
Let's have the feet on the ground.
Time to work, soldiers.
I tried giving Hardcore Team Deathmatch a try. I've never really been a fan of it in any Call of Duties, but in this one I kind of just got distracted and kind of feel like if you die and go to hell, you're going to be transported into a dark room with nothing but a PS4 and Call of Duty Ghosts, and you're forced to just play nothing but Hardcore Team Deathmatch. Call of Duty Ghosts map design is pretty fucking terrible, and that does not mesh well with hardcore mode at all. Two things that'll happen. I'll either run around for 2 minutes, not find anybody, and then die, wait to respawn, repeat, or I'll die as soon as I respawn and run around the corner. So throughout my entire time playing Call of Duty Ghosts Multiplayer, you would think I would come away with it saying that the biggest issues in it were the connection issues and the small player base. There was one big glaring issue that really ruined the game for me, other than all the other design issues that we'll get into in a little bit, and that is the god-awful frame rate. I cannot believe they considered this a next-gen title. See, one thing that I really noticed that this game had a problem with was the frame rate, and I feel like the issue with that is they kept trying to push this game as this big next-gen title without really optimizing it very well for the things that they were slapping into it. Another thing was that they made the PS4 version run at a constant 1080p with really no adjustments. This was something that the Xbox One version actually took a lot of shit for because it ran in 720p, but watching this one little frame rate comparison, I don't have an Xbox One to actually play and test this myself. It looks like the frame rate's a lot more stable on the Xbox One version due to it not being that high of a frame rate. And honestly, I don't remember frame rate being an issue on the PS3 release that I had, but oh my god, it is terrible in the PS4 version. I legitimately started to feel sick from it. I don't feel like this was an issue of the PS4 not being able to handle this game, seeing as they ported the game over to 360 and PS3 just fine. I think the problem was that they really didn't optimize it at all. They just raised the texture quality, threw it in 1080p and said, yeah, that'll do. This game runs really, really bad, even 5 years after its release, and I cannot believe that they got away with releasing it like this. I actually have a pretty capable PC, but I choose to buy console games because I like physical releases, so I'm not really a big stickler of a frame rate, but if a game released today with this kind of frame rate, it would not be acceptable. And that leads me into the next part of this video, where I kind of just want to talk about some of the issues I had with Call of Duty Ghosts overall, maybe kind of as a retrospective, and there's quite a few reasons I think that can contribute to why this game really didn't perform so well. Keep in mind that this was supposed to be the next-gen Call of Duty title for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. They tried really selling this game on the premise that it was something new, and it was really taking advantage of that new hardware, which obviously it wasn't, because it was the exact same game on last-gen consoles. And I really think they focused too much on these next-gen selling points than actually making this a good game. If you went back to Modern Warfare 2 on the 360, I think you would find more players on that than this. I'm pretty sure anybody that was paying attention to gaming around this time could agree that you could go into your local game store and there would be like 20, 30 of these on the shelves just back to back. It was ridiculous. And this game went on sale, I believe, like months after it was released. It really did poorly in comparison to the other Call of Duty releases, that is. So now let's kind of take a little retrospective look at this and why I think it did so poorly and why I think it was interesting to take a look back on to see if people were actually still playing this game. First off, it's not a very pretty looking game. It has a very dull color palette, which in itself isn't bad, but I think a lot of people like games like Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops because the colors just kind of popped. It had a really interesting art style to it, and in Ghost, I think they have a few interesting things going on with it, but overall it's just kind of this dull, bland looking game. A lot of it just kind of looks weird and they weren't really sure what kind of art style to go with. A common theme here you're gonna see is that they were pushing these stupid gimmicks to kind of sell this as a next-gen title. First thing I believe being the dual render scopes. I don't know if you guys remember this, but anytime you would aim down the sights with any kind of scope, instead of it being black, they just kind of blurred around the edges of it.
Dual render technology, which allow you to keep your target.
And from what people were telling me back then, I believe that they were saying that this was actually using a lot of processing power that was really unnecessary. Like, this was killing the frame rate on the PC version from what I remember. That was such a terribly optimized game, but with that, I don't have the PC port, so I'm not going to get into that too much, but I'm sure if you guys have ever played this on PC, you can attest to how fucking terrible that port was. Another thing they were trying to sell is this dynamic map design. They wanted you to think that there were all of these different elements in the maps that kind of really changed up the gameplay experience.
We're immersing players in the multiplayer maps in ways similar to what we've done cinematically in single player. Take the map Octane, for example, where you can blow up a gas station to take out enemies and create new cover.
Wow. That's some really great cover. But really it boiled down to you maybe shooting a tree to knock it over, or shooting a pile of logs to knock them over. Or they have that one map where the map just kind of fucking shakes for no reason and changes nothing else whatsoever. The most glaring example of this was they were trying to sell this pre-order bonus skyscraper freefall map. Oh god, it was so bad. Okay, the map was really sold to be this skyscraper, this building you were into, and it was just kind of crumbling and falling around you. But honestly, the map design was just this really lazy, flat map that didn't really have too much going on in it, and constantly it would kind of like fall down for whatever, like it kind of shook and kind of had this illusion of falling down to the ground. But the funniest part about this, and this is, God, this is so lazy on the developers, and I don't know what the reason for it was, but if you jump off the map, there's nothing under the skyscraper where it's falling. It's just a flat texture. So you can clearly see that there's no skyscraper under the map. It's almost like you're on this fair ride where the thing just keeps falling and falling and falling, and there's nothing that changes really about the map much at all. Oh god. I think Activision has to be blamed on this one, because I swear they were probably really wanting to push this idea that this was a next-gen title to sell with the PS4 and Xbox One coming out. And while we're on the subject of map design, the map design is fucking terrible. If you know anything about Call of Duty, most notably in Team Deathmatch, the game ends probably within 5-6 minutes of it starting, right? The score limit's reached, the game's over. The only time that you should ever have a game last 10 minutes in Call of Duty is if the lobby is only like half full, or there's only like a 2v2 and it's supposed to be a 6v6. I think almost every single Team Deathmatch I played never ended with the score limit. It ended with the time running out because people could never find and kill each other. Most Call of Duty maps focus on this 3-lane structure. Good Call of Duty maps do this. If you think of any of your favorite maps, say Terminal, Favela, High Rise, Nuketown, Raid, every single thing that these maps have in common is that they're well structured. They're made to where you're gonna keep running into people at an organized pace, and that's gonna keep the action going. Call of Duty Ghosts map design philosophy was, we're just gonna throw a bunch of random shit everywhere. I think Modern Warfare 3's map design was kind of loosely in the same vein as this, but not as bad. Ghost just took it to a whole nother level. I think these maps best play with game modes like Search and Destroy or Free-for-All, where you have the same spawns every time. In Free-for-All, you don't really need that organized 3-lane structure because people are randomly spawning around the map, but in something like Team Deathmatch, it played so bad. If you notice, there's a 24/7 Strike Zone playlist, which Strike Zone I believe is the smallest map in this game, which kind of still feels awkwardly big, believe it or not. And the only reason that this map is fast-paced and they have this set up because it's the most fast-paced map is 24/7 playlist, because I remember most people played this because it was the most fast-paced map. But the only reason is because the spawns are so bad, you just kind of randomly spawn into the other team. There's no organized structure or flow to the damn map. The maps just feel too big to get consecutive kills and feel rewarding, and then when you do have maps where you get consecutive kills, like say Strike Zone, it just feels cheap and weird. The ironic thing about this is, like I mentioned before, I think these maps work best for Free-for-All. However, Free-for-All only had like a handful of maps, and it sucked because Free-for-All was my favorite game mode. I played that the most out of anything else, and we only had like I think 3 or 4 base maps to play with. It sucked. One thing I actually really liked about Advanced Warfare was that I think every single map was also a Free-for-All map, which was awesome. I really love Stonehaven's map design from an aesthetic standpoint, but I could never really play it because I never played team-based game modes all that much. But yeah, 24/7 Strike Zone doesn't make up for terrible map design. Seriously, what the fuck? But you know, like I said before, I think the game had some strong points. I had a lot of fun with Gun Game. That was a really fun game mode. Sniping and the overall gunplay in general felt pretty tight, other than the lack of YY, which, again, I complain about all the time in most Call of Duty games now, besides Treyarch games, because for some reason they just fucking took it out. And for how bad the maps were designed, in my opinion, I think they had a nice aesthetic to them, and they also had a lot of verticality. One thing I really don't like about Treyarch maps so much is in, like, say, Black Ops 2, they were well structured, but they were just kind of boring. There wasn't much to them. Also, I did like when they tried to make attempts to do different things, like in Search and Rescue, where you could revive your teammates in Search and Destroy. It was a really great idea. Too bad nobody's actually playing it. And they did attempt to, you know, switch it up a little bit. They actually made Drop Zone, which is a pretty popular game mode in multiple Call of Duties, even though I think that started in Modern Warfare 3, but whatever. And while it sucks that it lacked things like a theater mode, which Treyarch was doing in all of their Call of Duty games after Black Ops 1, they actually offered an offline bot mode, which I feel like every multiplayer game should do. I think it's an interesting way to be able to kind of practice and play around in the maps without having to focus on online elements. Plus, in games like Call of Duty Ghosts, where the player base will no longer be around in like 20 years, nobody in their right mind's gonna fucking play Call of Duty Ghosts. For some reason you're interested or you're feeling nostalgic for it, you can jump in and play any map and mode with bots. I was able to play Search and Rescue on maps that I really liked because of the bot mode, which all I really ended up doing was a 1v17 on search and rescue, which is actually really terrifying when the only thing you give yourself to defend yourself with is a chrome-lined lynx.
SATCOM ready. You're the only one left. Remember your training, Ghost. Kill confirmed. Kill confirmed.
That was actually terrifying. There was also one more thing that I almost completely forgot that this game even had, and that was the Extinction Horde mode. This was this team-based game mode where you went around killing hordes of aliens, and you were trying to progress by taking this drill to these alien baby sack things. I'm not really too big on these horde mode type of games. If I wanted to play something like that, I feel like Left 4 Dead does it better than pretty much any other game out. Anyways, this was actually something that was really interesting, especially from an artistic standpoint. I'm gonna play this clip when you first load up into the game, and it's pretty cinematic, and I think it was really cool.
Intel reports the last extinction squad to come through this town went MIA. Yeah, look at this place. It's been a bloody battleground since they were unearthed. Spectre 1, take this drill and destroy any hives on your way to the crater.
If you kind of like the zombies mode in Call of Duty, maybe this is something that would interest you if you've never played it before. Although honestly, like I said, I got kind of bored with it. Later on in the game, we were kind of just like moving around, and I really stopped even trying. I just kind of sat in the middle of the map and hip fired, and nothing really came towards me. But again, not for me. It may be for you. Yeah, I thought I should mention it because it actually is pretty cool, and there's still a good bit of people actually playing it. In conclusion, I can't say that I had an overall bad time with Call of Duty Ghosts. It was pretty interesting, and there were a lot of fun moments to it. I just feel like the developers focused too much on making it this next-gen experience instead of just making it feel like a good game in general. Probably because of Activision's pressure, but it is what it is. There's a lot better Call of Duty titles to play. This should not be your first entrance into the series in any aspect, but it was something interesting to look back on. Before this video ends, I just want to mention that if you enjoyed this video or any of the other content that I produce, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. Any donations received will go directly into supporting my content, whether that be new equipment or video props and things to use in my video of that sort. And I gotta give a big shout out to Exact. He has been a huge supporter of my content for I don't even know how long now. He's always there for every video I produce, every tweet I make, no matter how stupid it is. He has supported me for a long time, so thank you so much, man, and thank you to everybody else that has supported me for this long. It really does mean a lot. With that being said, guys, if you've made it to this video, you're probably like the 10% that actually get this far. Again, thank you so much. If you've ever played Call of Duty Ghosts, give me your experiences on that in the comments. I'm really interested to know what you think. And if you've ever given this a try recently, how's the player count on last gen or PC? I really wanted to give that a try, but I just don't have the time or resources to get into that right now. And if you would like to see more of these long-form retrospective type of videos, let me know, because I've wanted to do stuff like this for a while, and I'm having a really good time with it. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. I'm rambling. I know. I'm sorry. It's been T, and I'm out. That was fun.